Guys, welcome back to Kendall Projects Podcast. This is season 2. We're here with head coach and owner of Palmetto Aquatics. And to be honest with you, since I started this whole thing, you were one of my first ideas of having a guest on. I felt like
I like that.
We're a lot of history, both for the team and the company, but I had the pleasure and the opportunity to experience a lot of that. So
Yeah.
And you and I, over the years, have had some amazing conversations on our mini trips to swim meets around the Southeast.
Yep.
And I just wanted to have an opportunity to capture a little bit of that lightning in a bottle that you and I have had over the years. And we'll get to that. So we have Heath Edwards here. Heath is the head coach and owner of Palmetto Aquatics. It's a competitive swim team here in Columbia, South Carolina. The best competitive swim team.
No doubt, Coach Jason.
That's right.
No doubt.
And we're going on 20 years, right? This is our 20th year, going into our 20th year.
Can't believe it.
I know, crazy. Heath has been coaching and owning this for 20 years. He also swam at Georgia, but he is a hometown Columbia boy and was born and raised here in Columbia.
Yep.
And I see Heath as a guru, self-help expert, and amateur psychologist to every swimmer and even our coaches that he has on his...
I should have a master's degree by now, or a
right.
PhD, rather.
That's right. Get that thing a little closer to your face.
Okay.
Man. You're good.
All right.
So Heath, just give us, how did it start? Where did it all come from? Where did all this to come from? You can start about your swimming experience.
Well, I'll start probably growing up, if that's okay.
Sure. A little closer to you.
All right. Right there?
There you go.
All right. Growing up, I grew up here in Columbia, like you said, and had a great experience. Youngest of 3 siblings. Come from a sports-oriented family. My grandfather was a USC, University of South Carolina football player.
I forgot about that.
And basketball player. He was a legendary high school coach here in the state of South Carolina. Was elected to the South Carolina High School Coaches Hall of Fame and the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. I've got uncles that have played college ball, baseball, football.
I do remember that now. I totally forgot about that, but it was starting to refresh my mind.
So, I grew up in a competitive family, a sports-oriented family. We all have natural gifts when we're born into this world, and I was very talented from an athletic standpoint, and just love competition, love sports, love playing basketball, baseball, Little League football when I was younger.
So you did play other sports
I did.
as a kid?
I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed those. I got into swimming when I was 8 years old, 8.
Okay.
At 7, but I tell everybody 8. My best friend growing up was a member of a summer league swim and racket club.
So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like just it's like church ball or Pee Wee football. It just takes place during the summer and generally comes to a country club or racket club. Or
and it's literally just a fun summer team for kids when they get out of school for about 8 weeks. And so I would spend several nights or week at his house during the summer, and then he would stay with me. And every time I stayed with him, I went to swim practice with him.
Were you a pool rat though as a kid? You just kind of hung out at the pool all the time as a kid?
No, because we weren't members up to that point. We weren't members of a swimming club.
Okay, so it was more like a treat.
Like a treat. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Okay. And so when I was 7, I went to swim practice during the summer with my best friend, and the coach let me swim a little bit. And one time they were missing one of their swimmers at a summer league meet. And the coach just put me in because I was there with my best friend, even though I wasn't on the team, and I won all my races. And so I had such a good time during the school year. The following year, I talked my parents into joining this same swim and racket club over in the Irmo, St. Andrews area. And so 8 years old, I started swimming summer league officially, and at that point, I became a pool rat. I was at the pool from 8 in the morning till 5, 6 at night. Summer swim meets every week. Went to the City League Championship and won every event that I swam. Huh. And so I didn't consider. So for those of you that might be listening. Swimming has 3 different types of league. There's summer league, which is what we've been talking about. And then there's high school league, which is high school competition, which is self-explanatory. Then there's club swimming, year-round swimming.
And it's USA.
It's USA swimming, yes. And so there were tons of people that did that. I never did it because I still like playing Little League football, basketball, baseball. But every summer until I was 14 years old, I did summer league while I was doing, and it was just during the summertime. There were a few times where my father tried to get me to do year-round swimming, but I ended up not doing it because I didn't want to give up. I wanted to be a kid. I didn't want to give up basketball. I didn't want to give up playing baseball. And so I just kept doing that. The funny thing is each summer I would get better and better, and I was beating all of the year-round kids that were swimming, and so I was at a young age. I started getting a lot of local notoriety and recognition. Whether it be in the paper or at city meet, people would come up. By the time I was 14, they'd come up to me and ask me for my autograph. Everybody was saying I was going to the Olympics.
But you still, at 14, you still weren't swimming year-round.
Correct. Wow. Well, no, I take that back. My dad got me to try it out when I was 12.
Okay.
And I'm sure I would have liked it, but I told him I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to give up my other sports. And then I tried it again when I was 13. Tried out again, and that was my 8th grade year in middle school. And so I made a deal with my dad that I would give up football and baseball, which I did, and I would swim year-round. But when it's basketball season, I wouldn't swim year-round, or I would swim practice in the morning and not go to any meets or anything like that. So that's what I did my 8th grade year. I swam, in the afternoons, and then when basketball season came for 3 months or however long it was, I swam, at 5 o'clock in the morning for an hour and a half, then went to school, and then I had basketball practice because I played for the school. I was on the school basketball team. And so I'd either go to my school basketball practice or the game that we had that night. And I did that, and then at the end of the at the end of the basketball season, they had our state meet just like 2 weeks later. I went to that, and I placed top 10 in most of my events. And then my dad and I had a long conversation that spring. Growing up, Jason, I had 2 athletic goals. One, I wanted to go to the Olympics.
Okay. 2,
I wanted to get a scholarship and play a sport at a major Division I college.
So even as a kid,
as a kid. I mean, I guess I'd seen that in my family, and that's what I idolized. That's what I wanted to do. I had a great work ethic. The talent was there. And so my dad basically sat me down and said, okay, if these are your goals, if you want to go to the Olympics, swimming might be your better option than playing basketball. And then if you want to get a college scholarship, he helped identify that I was probably a little too short at 5'10", 5'11", to play college basketball. And he just guided me the way a good father would, and then let me make my decision. But I knew it was right because I had so much success in such a short time frame swimming that I knew swimming was where I wanted to go. So at the end of my 8th grade year, I gave up all my sports and started swimming year-round full time that summer leading into my 9th grade year.
Okay. Was that hard for you to do that? Or
no.
It was just natural?
It was natural. It was time. It was the right decision. Sometimes, when in life you you come to a crossroads and you're not sure what to do. There are times where you're still unsure or uncertain about decisions that you make. But there are some of those few times where you know it's the right decision and you feel great about it, or you feel peace, you know? And that was one of those few times where it just felt right. It was good. It was an easy transition for me. And lo and behold, Jason, I mean, this is what really set me off. I just, when I do something, I do it with all my heart, all my energy, all my passion, everything that I've got. And so I was doing practices, before school every day, after school, or during the summertime, doing everything I could to see what my talent level could end up at. And by the end of my 9th grade year, just one full year of pure training, I finished number 1 in the country, Coach Jason. Number 1 in the country, the fastest 13, 14-year-old in the country.
Wow, man.
By the end of my 9th grade year.
Yeah, it's interesting contrast to my experience playing sports.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, I never had that peace of playing football.
Yeah.
It was almost like, if I could use an analogy, it was like having to wear a shirt that was too tight all the time.
Yeah.
And even though I did these great things, I just never felt comfortable with it.
Yep.
So that you had a completely different experience. It was very natural, my experience wasn't that. So there was a lot more love involved, per se. I fought for the love. I wanted to find it. I never could.
Yeah.
With the exception, this is well documented in my story, very few exceptions where I enjoyed what I was doing.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the water.
I did. And a lot of it had to do with the success I was having. But I did.
Do you think that it would have changed if you weren't as good?
I'm sure it would have an effect. I mean, if you're really, really good at something, whether it's music or art or football, and you're considered one of the best in your area of talent,
it makes it easier to participate.
I would think it would, for the majority, not always. Nothing's 100% bulletproof, right?
Yeah.
I would think that it would be easier to enjoy.
I agree with that.
Because you're getting recognition, you're publishing books, songs, art, whatever, and you're reaching goals. And that might be just for a season, meaning for a few years, and then it's time to move on to something else.
I do think there are exceptions.
I agree.
I think especially when you're performing in front of other people.
Yeah.
One of the things we see on the pool deck a lot at meets is the little kids getting on that block for the first time.
Yeah.
Some kids struggle with it, even as the older kids.
Yep.
Some kids find it more natural than others.
Yep.
So yeah, totally.
No doubt about it.
So at that point, you knew you were good.
Yeah, and again, by that time, everybody in Columbia didn't think, they knew I was going to the Olympics. So I probably had about 6, 7, 8, I don't even know, different times where the news came out and did a story on me, or in the paper or something like that, and people would see that, and it was before email and internet and all that stuff. So
paper was everything. You and I are about the same age. So
paper was everything. And so it was easy. I enjoyed the success. I worked. I had a lot of God-given natural ability and for swimming and the feel of the water, but I also coupled that with an incredible work ethic.
And that comes from home, you think, right?
It does. I think that. Well, I think having coached for 20 years and been competitive on the national and international level and seen all levels, I think that work ethic could be something that some people are born with as well. Because I've seen a lot of really good swimmers with their work ethic not being where it needs to be. And they might have achieved a lot, but they could have achieved so much more. I mean, I know some.
So it's nature and nurture.
I think it's a little bit. Yeah, I think it's both. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you can see that on my swim team with kids that have a natural. It's easier for them to have a strong work ethic versus others that don't.
And then you have the kids that have an amazing work ethic, that fight for everything they can get on the pool. And you got the kid that doesn't work very hard and still is better than that kid that's working hard. It becomes this kind of catch-22.
Oh, it does. It does. Yeah. It does. It does. And you see that, at least in the sport of swimming, all the time, because it's more of an individual sport than a team sport. Yeah. Success is predicated more on the individual level.
So, all right, Olympics. So, what happened with that?
So Jason, I had an incredible high school swimming career. I ended up my junior year. I won junior nationals, which is a national championship meet for
16 years old,
18 and all the 18 and unders in America. And
so you were 16.
I was 16 when Yep. I was young. My birthday is in September, so I was always the youngest one in my grade. So in 9th grade, I was 14. 10th grade, I was 15. Junior year, I was 16. Senior year, I was 17. I was 17 for the first month of college when I went to college. Okay. So I've always kind of been the youngest in that way. But I had a great high school career. End up winning 42 individual state championship titles, national championships, made an international team for USA Swimming, competed internationally.
At 16?
16, 17. Yeah, 15, 16, 17.
Okay.
And made some national camps. And one summer, I don't remember what summer it was, maybe between my senior year, my sophomore, junior year, like I made a national camp called Team Atlanta, and it was the projected top 18-year-old athletes in the country that were projected to have the best shot to make the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. So I did some camps like that and went out to the Colorado Springs to the Olympic Training Center. Had neat experiences. They put me in the flume, which is that box, and they tape all, these...
Do all your mechanics and...
Pulling
water.
And the science is, so much better now than it was 30 years ago. But still, I mean, I had a wonderful... high school career. I ended up getting a full swimming scholarship to the University of Georgia. Oh. And go Dogs. Yeah. Go Dogs.
Was that controversial after your family had been such a University of South Carolina affiliate?
Yes and no. I mean, if you want a moment of honesty, it was a little bit more controversial because I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I thought I was going to go to BYU out in Provo, Utah, and that's where the coach had been recruiting me hard. I had an uncle that played football there, was a starting quarterback at BYU. Okay. And my mom went there, and the coach had it's the craziest thing, Jason, that the head coach had a connection. His sister works here in Columbia at Harbison Recreation Center where I grew up swimming. So there was an immediate connection.
And we still practice there.
And we still practice there.
Wow.
Correct.
Okay, so you decided to go to Georgia, and that was controversial. They didn't give you too much hard time.
No. Really, the only person that was upset was my mom.
Well, that's sometimes you can't. You try hard to please mom, but no matter what you do, it's still not good enough.
True story. True story.
Way moms work. So, all right. So you get into Georgia. You go to Georgia.
So I go to Georgia, and I have an incredible experience there. I had a decorated college career there. I was put in timing sometimes in life has a lot to do with opportunities and can dictate a certain amount of success or not success. And I went there at the University of Georgia at a great time. They were not a national powerhouse. They were not an elite year in, year out swimming program, at least on the men's side.
Was that when like schools like out in California were big? Who was big then?
It was the same that's been for a long time. Texas,
okay.
Florida, Tennessee, Michigan, USC, Southern Cal, Stanford. Georgia was not a top 10 program year in and year out.
Okay.
In fact, the highest that they had ever gotten was 16th before I got there. In my freshman year, we got 16th. We equaled that. And we had two good recruiting classes, my recruiting class and the one after mine. And my sophomore year, we ended up finishing 10th at NC2As. And then my junior year, we ended up finishing 3rd, which was huge.
Right, that's a big jump, 16 to 3rd.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with facilities. I mean, you hear with football especially, the arms race to build facilities, to have the nicest facilities, to get, the best college football players, committed and come to town. I've got a testimony of that because that, my freshman year, we swam in this dungeon, Stegman Hall, and it was a dungeon. It was a nice 50-meter pool, but it was built in like the 30s. I think they held.
Was it underground? Or it looked like it was underground?
Yes, it looked like it was underground.
No windows, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think like the 1946 Olympic trials were there, or something. I mean, that's how old the pool was, and it was a student center as well. The swim team was the only people that ever went in the building, like legit. So, but my sophomore year, October 1st of my sophomore year, they completed a $50 million state-of-the-art pool and student rec new facility, and it became one of the legit, top 5 pools in America at the time.
Wow, okay.
And instantly the recruiting went up, and by the time I graduated, the men's program was a top 6, top 7 program every single year, and the women, they went on to win 6, 7 national championships. Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like driving a Pinto and then all of a sudden driving a Mercedes?
Yeah. As far as the facility, and I say that the program wasn't elite. We weren't bad. I mean, we were top 20 every year.
Sure.
But now they're more of a top 10 program every year, which is awesome. So,
also, swimming's changed the way that professional swimming has habit. All that. So one of the interesting parts, and I don't mean to steal your thunder here, but one of the interesting parts of your story is you swam for 3 years, correct? First.
Correct, at the University of Georgia.
Okay, so 3 years. How in those 3 years? Back to the point of the Olympics. Where were the Olympics in that?
So 96 Olympics were in Atlanta, and that was my sophomore year.
Okay.
That was my sophomore year. I made Olympic trial cuts. You have to go so fast. You have to be so fast just to be invited to the Olympic trial meet.
Right.
And I had cuts, and me and my teammates that were there, we trained and during the college season and did both college season and Olympic trials. I did not make the Olympic team.
You swam though at trials.
I swam at trials. Went incredible experience. I mean, I swam. My best event is 200 fly, and in my prelim swim in the 200 fly, I got to swim next to Melvin Stewart, who was the current and reigning Olympic gold medalist in the event. In 1988, I think he got 3rd in the 200 fly, and then he won the gold medal and broke his own world record a few times in 92 through 96. So from from the 88 Seoul Olympics all the way up to 96 Olympic trials, he was undefeated every year at international world championships, Pan Pacs, all the different.
So he was the Michael Phelps of his time, almost in that event.
Just in that event, just that event. But I got to swim next to him, and it was one of the things I'm asked often by a lot of my swimmers and parents, do I miss swimming? And I do, but I don't. But one of the ways that I do miss swimming is I miss, Jason, being on that deck as a swimmer in that environment, rubbing
that
shoulders.
Championship environment.
Oh, it is like no other environment that you can be around, and it's I would assume in other sports, it's like being in the NBA finals. You know, going to a national championship bowl game, playoff football game, and just the environment of the crowd and who you're with, and everybody's fast and elite and good and
great shape,
ready, and it motivates you. It doesn't, hopefully it doesn't scare you by the time you get to that point, but it motivates you, and you appreciate. I appreciated the environment and tried to soak it up and enjoy it. That's one of the things I do miss about competing and being at that level, because they take such the officials of the big wigs at USA Swimming, they make sure the environment's right and the athletes at that level are taken well care of. So, but I went 3 years, had an incredible college experience. I ended up.
Let me just interject real fast. So you went 3 years, tried to make Olympics, didn't do it. So
correct.
Another year after Olympics.
Correct.
And then you took a break from swimming for 2 years.
Correct. Yes.
To do your mission for your church requirement.
Yes.
I have to ask, you could have waited another year still, right? Or could you not? How's that work?
Yeah, I could have. So, I told you that I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and one of the programs of the church is that the young men, at that time you had to be 19 years old to go.
Okay.
And they highly encourage the young men that are that age to go and serve a mission for 2 years. And then basically it's a church-oriented mission. It's a service mission.
Right.
I mean, it's legit. It's hard. It's disciplined. It's you're going out. You fill out these applications. You send them into Salt Lake City, where our church headquarters are, and the church leadership prays about it. They try to seek revelation and see where you could be used worldwide, because I think our church has like 350 different missions in however many countries throughout the world. And so
and for those of you who aren't familiar, you're completely separated from your family for 2 years.
Oh yeah,
Friends and everything.
Yeah.
It was different then because there were no cell phones, there was no email. It's just telephone back then.
Yeah. So you send your applications in, and then they send you back a few weeks later where you're going to be assigned. It could be anywhere in the world. Like my dad 50 years ago went for 2 years to New Zealand.
Okay. Wow.
My brother, my oldest brother, went to San Juan, Puerto Rico for 2 years. My other brother went to, his mission was the Tucson, Arizona mission. So it could be anywhere. I end up serving my mission, getting my mission call, and serving in the Colorado Denver North mission. So I was in the northern part of Colorado, up past Denver, a little bit of Denver, but mostly north of Denver, east to west border, going north up to Wyoming. I lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming for 4 months.
Town,
it is. It was awesome. It was cold. I was there December through March.
Ooh, wow,
but the people were good. They were awesome. I had that was probably one of my most enjoyable areas, on my mission.
So you didn't even get in the pool during those 2 years?
No. So some of the mission rules, it's kind of crazy, but some of the mission rules, you can back then you could only call home twice a year. So you couldn't come home. You can only call home twice a year. Can you guess what
Christmas and
Christmas is one, yeah.
Birthday?
Nope.
Mother's Day?
Mother's Day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
and then there was no email back then, so everything was snail mail, and you can't. You're with a companion, and basically all you do is just try and find people that would be interesting in learning about the gospel of Jesus Christ, whether it's through friends that have friends, or members of the church that have friends that want to learn, or legit knocking on doors. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners worldwide have seen guys on bikes with white shirt and tie and a little black name tag.
Right.
I was one of those dudes.
Right.
I was one of those dudes, and it was life changing. It was one of the most wonderful experiences of my entire life. It helped me grow up. It helped me gain perspective. It helped me figure out what kind of life I wanted. It helped me mature. It helped me in so many areas.
But when you were going through this, did it ever cross your mind, or did you ever meditate or contemplate this idea, like, look, I am getting out of shape?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I am going to be hating it.
No.
Okay.
You get 30 minutes of, in the morning time, 30 minutes of a little bit of fitness time. And I would take that. I would do push-ups, sit-ups. Some of the apartments we had a little workout gym, and you do a little bit of workout.
So you somewhat came in shape when you could.
Yeah.
You just weren't in the pool.
Was not in the pool. And honestly, my son, who's on a mission now, ironically enough, in Colorado,
right.
But he's experiencing this. When I left, it was a little bit of a mental and physical relief to get away from swimming, because I'd done it for so long.
It was kind of break. It was a nice break in a way.
And earlier you asked about transitioning from other sports into swimming, and was that hard? And I said no, because it was the right thing to do for me, and that was not hard for me because I knew it was the right thing for me to be doing at this point in my life, and then B. I knew that my swimming career was not over, that I was still coming back to swim for my last year. And so if I think maybe if I would have finished my 4 years and then gone on my mission, and I would have known that I'll never swim again, I think I would have had a little bit of different effect on how I felt.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
But I knew I was coming back, and I had faith in myself, and honestly, I had faith in God. I mean, I was sitting there doing His work, sacrificing, right?
Yeah.
And so I just put trust in Him that He'll help me get back to where I needed to be.
It's funny you bring up the idea of faith. My wife, ironically enough, is named Faith.
Yeah.
And we've been having these conversations and even with my parents recently as well, about what it truly means to have faith. And in the context of the Bible, it says that it's what is it? Hope? Belief in the reality that's not here yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's really in having peace with your decision and knowing that things are going to come to pass in a way that you have no control over, but it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I think as a human, period, not just as a Christian or whatever, that's one of the hardest things in our life to kind of accept. And it's real interesting. At 19, you're coming to terms with this in a way that's And we'll get to this more on anyway. So you go on your mission.
Yep.
And then what? So you're finished with your mission?
So then I come home. I come home April 1st of 1999, and I had to report back to Athens, Georgia to start swimming May 1st. So I had 4 weeks at home to be with my family, who I hadn't seen, in 2 years. My mom and dad, because everybody else was out of the house. But got to be at home and rest and just be at home for 4 weeks. And so I moved back down to Athens. But the week before I left, I went to a church service downtown with my father, because he was asked to do a speaking assignment to this congregation, and the congregation was actually a congregation of what we would call young adults, young single adults, people that are the same age, that aren't married, they're kind of
post-college or college kids? What?
Both. And I went and I met a lady there that my dad knew, and long story short, she knew my sister, and my sister found out about it that same day and called me and called her and set us up on a date for the next day on that Monday. And we went on a date that Monday night, and then on that Tuesday night, and on that Wednesday night, and on that Thursday night. And then Friday morning, I was
the last 4 days you were in town.
Last 4 days I was in town. And then I was packed up Friday morning, and I left and moved back to Athens. That young lady is now my wife. So I met her, the last Sunday of church before I moved back down to Athens. And I went back and we dated back, a long distance relationship. I started training. Getting back into shape was probably the hardest physical thing I've ever had to do at that level.
Well, let's go back. All right, so it's good. Take us there. Take us there first day in the pool. Were you by yourself?
Oh my gosh.
So you get to Athens.
I get to Athens, and it's actually, when I get there, and unload and do all this kind of stuff. My coach let a few of my buddies help me. They actually came down in trucks, and we all kind of took all my stuff down to Athens and unloaded it. And by the time we got done unloading into the house, it was practice time, or they were still practicing. And I went down there with my suit.
Oh, you're good.
I went down there with my suit and goggles, and I hadn't been in the water in just a little over 2 years. And came on deck. Everybody saw me, jumped out of the pool in the middle of the set, ran over again. I mean, it was a great reunion. But then they got going again, and my coach, who's a legendary coach, good man, second father, Jack Bowerly, ended up being head coach of the Olympic team in 2012.
Okay, wow, okay.
But he said, "Go get that suit on. Let's
see what's up.
See what's up." And I remember going into the locker room, and I hadn't had a Speedo on in over 2 years. And I remember walking out of the locker room, kind of with my hands down, trying to cover it just felt awkward because I hadn't been in a Speedo in 2 years. And he put me in the diving well by myself, and I just did 1,000 easy. But it felt weird. It felt heavy. The water felt thick. It took me the month of May, June, and July just to get to the point where I was in training shape.
Were y'all swimming singles or doubles?
Well, they were doing their national level schedule, and I was on something completely different.
Okay. Well, that was cool that your coach took that in consideration instead of putting you in a 100 flies on 110 or something.
So he put me in and said the first week, I just want you to come in and do 1,000 easy. And you need to go to the training room, and you need to go to the weight room and just start getting a little bit stronger, and then the next week we build up to 2,000, and that we kind of, and I stayed at about 3,000 the last 2 weeks of May, just once a day. Yeah. And then we started adding in mornings. I was getting up to 4,500 meters in the afternoon, about 2,000 in the morning, and every now and then I'd show spurts of speed and competitiveness and that kind of thing, and they had the state of Georgia, just like South Carolina, has a state meet at the end of July that's open to anybody, and so my coach sent me down there for a day to swim just to get a little bit of racing in, and that was my first meet 3 months later, and I won both my events.
Wow, 200 fly and?
No, it was 200 IM and 100 back. It was just one day. And then I just kind of started training, and I wanted my realistic goal was to be in training shape by the time everybody came back from the summer who didn't stay, mid-August.
So what was, I'm sure it's the same, so tell everybody, what is the college swim season?
I think it's, September 1st through the end of March.
So you wanted to come in the fall ready?
Yes, to just be able to be competent physically in the water and train.
Okay.
And I did, and I had a great experience. I swam well. We had our Southeastern Conference Championships in February, which means I had been training for about 9 months since I got home. May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, 10 months approximately. And I swam really well at that meet. In fact, the first night of conference, I was the only male swimmer to make an A final.
On the team?
On the team. And so I had a good meet. I had a great meet. And then 4 weeks later, I qualified for NC2As. 4 weeks later, I went. And I did not do as good as I thought. The first night was 200 IM. I did well. I got 10th place. So I was, All-American. All-Americans are top 16 and B final, second in the B final.
And for our non-swimming listeners, generally most meets they take top 10. That's
top eight for A final, and top 16 for a B final.
Okay.
So then the second day I had the 400 IM, and I did okay. I didn't go a best time. I did okay. I got 17th. I missed the B final, 16th place by 0.1 second. A tenth of a second. And then the third day was my 200 fly, and I didn't do well. Each day I kind of got worse, but you know what that was?
Fatigue.
Yeah, and lack of training. I mean, I had only hadn't trained for 2 years. I trained for, I just counted out 10 months, but that last month was really tapering, and the first 2 or 3 months was really trying to build up.
So you're basically
that base, yes, that's exactly what it was. I was running out of gas, and I still had a great career. I mean, I ended up, I qualified for the 2000 Olympic trials in just 9 months worth of training, 10 months worth of training. I finished, as an SEC champion and a 14-time All-American at the University of Georgia. But by the time I finished that, instead of continuing to train during April, May, June, and go to Olympic trials in July 1st of 2000, I decided to quit swimming, to hang it up, because I was ready to. I'd already been to Olympic trials.
Did you know that you weren't going to make it?
Yes. I hadn't swam in a long course championship meet in 3.5 years. And so, and
you just knew.
I just knew. And if it was short, I was a lot better short course swimmer than long course swimmer.
Because of your turns?
Yeah, in the walls. And so and the beautiful young lady that I dated each night in May before I returned, in April before I returned to move back to school, we ended up getting engaged and getting married. So
before you finished swimming?
Right after.
Right, okay.
We finished.
So you finished swimming, then you
we got engaged Thanksgiving of my senior year when I came home for Thanksgiving break for a couple days. And so we were engaged, and we got married on May 12th, which was my, I graduated, got married, and ironically enough, we got pregnant on the same day. It was a big day for me, Jason.
Big day, man. Big day, man. You couldn't have planned it better, my friend.
So, and again, the situation from quitting swimming, hanging up the suit, the transition was easy because, again, for me, it was the right thing to do. And thank you.
So let's talk about the big day real fast. So I forgot, you told me this years ago. So was it just like, holy crap? What am I going to do?
No, because we didn't find out till about 3 weeks later.
No, at that when you found out after all that, like
I didn't know you know, I came home from work, and my wife, my wife was in her PJs. It was like lunchtime, and she works full time, and she's making lunch. And I'm like, well, what are you doing home? I mean, it was a pleasant surprise. Oh, I thought I'd just come and make lunch and have lunch with you. I said, you're not working today? She said, no, I took the rest of the day off. I said, okay. So we sat down. When I sat down, there was a little present, wrapped present, sitting on my plate, or right beside my plate. I'm like, whoa. She said, oh, I just got you something. I said, okay. So I opened it, and it was the pregnancy test saying that it was positive. And you know, I was thrilled. I wasn't scared. I grew up thinking, looking forward to the day of having a family. Yeah, I just, you know, I'm kind of a old spirit like that. I'm always, I don't know. I was thrilled, happy. You know, my wife's a few years older than me. She's mature. She handles things, and I said, "All right, great, let's do it. Let's do it." We're excited. We're excited.
Cool. All right, and so when you said come home from work, were you coaching then? Still, you had things.
No, I had. So when I graduated, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was looking into going to graduate school here at the University of South Carolina and getting into some type of program or master's program with counseling, family counseling, marriage and family counseling, something of that in that range. And possibly getting on as a graduate assistant college coach to get into college coaching. And that opportunity was there, but then I had an opportunity to start my own business.
So unpack that for us.
Okay.
You said opportunity to start your own business.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
There was, you know, so the club I ended up swimming for at Harbison, between the time that I graduated in 1994 and 2000, when I got home and graduated and got married, so that 6-year span, there was a lot of, it was a board-run program, okay?
Yeah.
And
so a group of people decided on what the program should and shouldn't be.
Who to hire, how to run it, all that kind of stuff. So in that 6 years, they ended up
disbanding.
Giving the program to one guy, and then he sold it to somebody else. And the guy that had it, and I need to be careful what I say. Let's just say that the program was not in good standing and good condition.
Okay.
It was somewhat, one could perceive that it was basically being run down into the ground.
Okay. Mismanaged.
And this individual knew. So that summer, when I graduated, I did get a job coaching summer league.
Okay.
And I was looking for
so coaching was in the peripheral.
Yes. And I was looking for opportunities to put a structure over an outdoor pool to start my own team. And this coach that was running the program over at Harbison had mismanaged, and I think he saw the forecast and the direction that it was going. He actually called me and said, "Hey, I'm burnt out of coaching. Do you want to buy my program from me?" I said, I'd be happy to talk to you. Yeah, absolutely. And long story short, I ended up purchasing his program from him. And he didn't have a lot of swimmers at that time. I mean, literally 15 to 20 kids.
Wow.
And but what I was really purchasing were the indoor pool contracts. Time. And I just took off from there, and I've been coaching. I'm in my 20th year, and it's been fantastic.
So, all right, you got to give us a little bit more that. So you got 20 kids, and now what are we at now? What is Palmetto at now?
We're about we range during the school year somewhere between 185 to 200.
So we're around 200 kids. You've gone from 15 to 20 kids to 200 kids. Now, so 10 years ago when I was coaching for you, that was half of that then?
We probably had about 125.
So those first 10 years, well, can you give us a...
Well, the first year, by the time that we signed the deal, this is a crazy story. So it was November 1st of 2000. And legit, I mean, for real, he had given me a roster of swimmers from Team Manager. It's a software that helps manage team, and it had like 150 names on it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I'll have 150 kids.
Oh man!
I get there, and leading up to this, Jason, I'm like, so what are we gonna do as far as transition? You know, I like to be organized or think I'm organized. Yeah. He's like, yeah. We'll I'll introduce you and. We'll have a meeting and we'll do this and it'll be a smooth transition.
So you're expecting to walk into a pool with a ton of kids.
Correct. So on the day that we sign the contract and then we legit go to the pool, he says, hold on 1 second. I've got to let them know that I'm done coaching and you're going to be their new coach. I said, you told me.
You haven't told him yet.
So he goes in there, Jason.
Oh, man.
He's in there a max of 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Walks out.
He walks out.
Walks to me and said, they're all yours, and gets in his car and drives away.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, that is hilarious, man. Oh,
So I walk in. Some kids are crying because
yeah, man. What kind of situation?
Other kids are confused.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's what you call a baptism by fire.
Wow. You've never.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
So I walk in and I'm like, OMG. What do I do? What do I say? So
Get in on the top.
So I pull them out. I get their towels, sit down and try to, but these are kids.
And you're a kid.
And I'm a kid. I'm 23.
Yeah.
23. And I'm just like, hey, I honestly, he had told me that
this is a story.
Parents were going to be here. We were going to have a meetings. He was supposed to let you know in advance.
Wow.
So, like, half the kids got up and left, said, I'm leaving. And I say 15, 20 kids. We had on the team that day, there were 15 to 20 kids. There were probably about 35 kids on the team. But by the time I had gotten everybody's contacted them, called a meeting, we ended up having probably a meeting with 15 to 20 kids and their parents. And out of those, I would probably say 20, and out of those, 4 or 5 left. I started with about 15 kids, and and that was that.
So how long before things started picking up?
So that was in November. So
Beginning short course.
I mean, you can't recruit.
Yeah.
So I limped through the short course season, which is basically through the school year. Got to the summer.
And also, too, folks that don't know, like how swimming works is like a membership. You pay monthly to swim on a team, and if you're an owner or whatever, 15 kids, unfortunately, that's just not. It's hard to make a living.
Very hard.
So you limp through.
So I limped through. Luckily, I had my wife who was financing things because she was working, paying all of our bills, and she was in sales. And she's a great salesman. So and we had no kids, no debt, outside, car
But she's
and
still
a house.
pregnant.
But she's pregnant, yeah. So I limped through. We kids ended up swimming pretty fast. I had a couple kids go to state meet. I mean, it was all new to me. I didn't even know how to coach, Jason. I mean, I was a national level swimmer champion, but it's one thing being a swimmer, and it's another thing, learning how to coach. So I joined the American Swim Coaches Association. I start taking courses. I start talking to other coaches. I call my coaches, and I'm just trying to absorb as much as I can and as fast as I can. And it was a good learning curve. And then by the time we got to the summer, I put forth a big marketing plan to get out to as many summer league clubs and do free clinics and things like that just to get word out. And by the time we started after summer, in that September, we went from like 15 kids to 90 kids like that.
So let's rewind a little bit. So was there a moment where you were like, oh, crap, I've got to do this? Or was it more like, okay, I'm accepting the call to adventure. This is what I got to do. I've got to step up. I'm going to make this thing my thing.
Yeah, it's more that.
Okay.
I wasn't freaked out, but realization had hit me that I need to learn how to be professional. I need to know what a professional coach does and how they act and what makes kids swim fast. I had a lot to learn about how to plan a training season, how to learn about energy systems and learn how to teach technique and speak technique. And then you add in strength and conditioning with dry land and all those other things that supplements, nutrition, things like that I just kind of did, but I never thought about, at least.
Because somebody else was telling you what to do, too.
Correct. And I didn't know what the coach did when I wasn't at practice or wasn't at a swim meet,
You didn't even think about it.
Didn't even think about it. And it's not just coaching, it's my own business, so I'm running a business.
Right. It's different.
It's different.
You're not working for a
or
university or something like
or
that.
a board-run program where I just show up and coach and that's it. I mean, I'm legit writing checks. I'm legit the janitor cleaning up after things. I'm the.
If kids don't show up for practice or people don't join the team, you're.
Yeah. And here's another example: spirit wear, swim caps, swim gear, shirts. I didn't know what to do, where to go, or how to even approach that. Sure. I'd never thought about that in my life. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of little things, and one thing I learned, as being a small business owner, is the work never leaves. I had to learn how to turn things off at night and on the weekends because. I work from home during the day and then, go off to practice at night or early in the morning. But when I'm home during the day, I have a work office at home and I'm sitting there. So sometimes it's hard to separate work from family life, work from home life.
Did you have the luxury of having an office at the house back in the day when you started, or was this on the kitchen table?
It was upstairs in a room kind of above the garage.
Okay.
But it really didn't have a desk, and I ended up putting, an old 4-leg card table, and so yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's really interesting. You were talking about that. A lot of people that don't understand, you're owning your own business or having a small business, and you're running it out of your house. That inability to separate work from life. That was one of the hardest things that I had to deal with last year.
Yeah.
Because I would find myself working like 12, 16-hour days.
Well, and here's the funny thing, and I hope Kim, my wife, and Faith don't listen to this. But I say that jokingly. But you get your wife works, my wife works, she gets home and she's off work. So when she's there, and I'm there with her off of work, she thinks I'm off of work. And so if I'm sitting there working or doing something and she needs me to do something else, she gets upset. Or there's a little bit of conflict sometimes. And we've learned to manage that and deal with that and that kind of thing. But that's just little things that we're talking about, right? That you learn and you deal with. And but I did have we moved out of that house and built a new house and 15 years ago. So about 3 years, 4 years, about 3 years after we got married. And we put an office in our house that we've been in for 15 years, and it's a legit office. I mean, it's
it's a space. It's your own space.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you're talking about. Faith sometimes she's learned, especially this past year, but this is my space.
Yeah.
And she's gotten better about, like, say, Christmas. She's like, "Do you mind if I put stuff in your space?"
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that's getting better, but you forget that this is.
And I can totally understand Faith and Kim's perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally. I'm not bagging on that at all. It's just something that you have to deal with, and there were times where she was absolutely right, where I needed to cut things off, but there were times where I was, she wasn't right, and I needed to get my work done.
Right.
And you just kind of figure it out together and that kind of thing. But owning your own business, as you know, Jason, is legit. I mean, it's all the success is predicated on you. Right. All the failure is predicated on you. So you feel that weight.
It's a weight.
And you have to make sure that and delegation, when you've got staff and stuff, can be kind of tricky because you want to delegate, but then again, if people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's why I probably don't delegate enough. I just want to make sure it gets done.
It's still new, though. I mean, we're going to go back to the beginning, but since we're on this subject, I have the luxury of perspective as far as the staff is concerned, because when I was coaching with you, except for maybe Danny or one or two other college kids that were helping out, it was just me and you.
Correct. Correct.
So, and it's easier sometimes to deal with that. But now you've got 15 staff members, and that is 15 different lives you have to manage and deal with.
Yeah.
So it is different. But let's go back to, so you're swimming at Harbison the first 3 years. When did you start swimming at the fort, and how did that work out, and how did you end up at Harbison, and then tell the story how we got to USC?
So I was always looking to expand and grow and be bigger and be better and all of that. And I saw an opportunity at Fort Jackson. There was a lady in town who had run a successful program for many, many, many years. I called her, asked her how much longer she was going to do it, told her I wanted to buy her program from her and hire her to come and help run the Harbison facility because that's where she lived. And she agreed, and I took over the contract at Fort Jackson, and instantly, we had 120 kids over there. I hired a staff to...
So you had an additional 120 kids?
Yeah, so for 2 years, we had about 250. Because we were about 120, 125 at Harbison, another 120, 125 at Fort Jackson. And so that went well, that went awesome. And then with 9/11 and regulations several years later, because we weren't military affiliated, they kicked us off the base, basically. That's what happened. So then we went just back to Harbison. Long story short, I got called in to the executive director at Harbison. Him and the aquatics director wanted to meet with me, and they told me that they were cutting my pool hour time down.
This is in 2011. Is that right? Or 2010, 11?
I was thinking it was 9 or 10.
It might have been 9 or 10.
I think it was 2009. 2009. And so, because I think this is our 10th or 11th year at USC. Because you were in USC with us.
I was with you for 2 years at Harbison, and then that last year we moved to USC.
Yeah. So whatever that was.
Oh, yeah, okay.
About 10 years ago, give or take. And in this meeting, they basically tell me they're going to cut me down from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, which is not very much space, especially with 120, 125 kids.
Yeah, for our non-swimming listeners, like that's one of the hardest things about having a swim team with any kind of one, financial stability, and also membership stability is managing lane space. Because ultimately, competitive swimmers, kids that are swimming short course, 10 kids in a lane is a lot of lanes. So if you've got 3 lanes, over 10 kids, I mean, you really can't train. You really just can't put in yardage. You can't control the intensity and whatnot. And, you know,
But they were also saying that they were going to cut us back to 3 days a week.
3 days, that's even another thing.
So there's no way I could run a competitive program. And you know, and there was a lot, you know, I gave the short version. There was a lot that built up to that with them trying to start their own team and push me out and that kind of thing.
So you were sweating it for
in fact,
so.
For more than that. But you know, during that meeting, I was just thinking, okay, I guess this is my lot. This, you know, I've done everything I can possibly do to hold on to this contract and keep it the way it is, because there's not enough indoor pools to be able to do what I do.
Yeah,
and so you know, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure something out, because get another job, do something, because I can't run a team, let alone make any money with what they're giving me. So I walk out, check my, this is for real. I walk out, check my phone messages. I was going to call my wife to tell her what the meeting was about, and I had a missed call that I listened to before I called my wife, and it was, ironically, I mean, legit, as I was walking out of there feeling hopeless, I had a voice message from the aquatics director at the University of South Carolina saying, "Hey, Heath, I got your name for somebody. We're looking to bring another swim team in at the University of South Carolina. Didn't know if you would be interested. Give me a call." That was the message. That was the message.
What went through your head?
Oh, praise God. I mean, it's a miracle. I mean, and the timing, and I mean, I don't, you know me, I'm a religious guy.
But rarely in our lives it happens like that.
Oh, rarely.
It is a miracle.
It's a miracle.
There's no way we can do it.
I don't, you know, and I do, in my own personal way, Jason, I believe that God provided that avenue because he knew or knows that the job that I do, I take as a ministry to kids and to families and to the community. And as much as I make money or want to make money or try to make a living, which is my first priority, and as much as I want fast swimmers and want champions and want this and that competitive recognition for our team and kids, I also take very, very seriously the role that I play as a coach in the field of mentorship. And you know, this you and I have had many conversations about life.
Sure.
Life is hard. The stuff that teenagers are dealing with, a lot of the same stuff we dealt with, but we didn't have phones. We didn't have social media anxiety.
Mass media telling us
mass media, you know, our little kids having pornography at the touch of a phone, stuff that you don't want to see at that age, you know, just, yeah, so you know, I take seriously the mentorship part of coaching.
Right.
And I love my kids, I love my families, and I have a personal ministry because I feel like that's where I need to be in not just coaching them, because I love coaching, I love training, I love swimming, I love competitiveness, I love getting kids to be at a great or elite levels in the sport of swimming. So I love that. But I also take just as serious the opportunity to mentor and to reinforce values and morals that they're being taught in their homes. Or there are a lot of kids that don't come from a family of love, or they come from broken homes or whatever circumstances, and that's fine. But kids need hope. They need confidence. They need direction. They need guidance. And so going back to the miracle of USC just popping up out of nowhere as an option for us to swim, I think God knows my intent. God knows that I want to try to use my business to further His purposes and to bless others' lives, which I think is a big part of life. I mean, we're here to learn to be good and to make good choices, and when we make bad decisions, which we all will,
Sure.
or go down dark roads for a few years at a time or whatever, just kind of getting back on that road, right? And feeling good and helping other people, just helping other people. Whatever problems you've got, there are other people with worse problems.
Yeah, you never know what the other person's going through.
So so that's how we got into USC, and then honestly, ever since then, we have just blossomed from a number standpoint and a quality standpoint, and as the team has grown, the staff has grown, and managing a staff is hard because a lot of our coaches, most of our coaches have full-time jobs. They've got kids, and so trying to balance who, what, when, where, why, and how is hard. But the staff I've got, I love. I've had a core group of 4 or 5 adults that have been vital to my stability and my success, and thus the team's success.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned this, that it used to be such a limited you and I only, and then now you have this staff, and I just came back on last February. But like I think I told you last weekend or whatever it was at the meet, that there was a moment at practice where there it is. That's what it is. There it is. That's that groove. We were all in.
Yep.
All groups on firing.
Well-oiled machine.
It was all firing. Everything was working. Pool full of kids. Splashing
Groups
everywhere,
coming and going.
Kids going.
It's a little bit chaotic, but it's organized chaos.
It's
everybody was in their element.
It was a symphony. Almost.
It was. It really was.
I mean, it was really one of those great moments where I hadn't been a part of that yet. Being that. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of it, but like this time last year, I was like the newcomer and really kind of feeling my way in.
Yeah.
It's like, return. And so there was really a magical moment for myself, but that's what you're talking about. I was like, and it's one of those things. I think we're going to talk more specifically about philosophy a little bit, but that's what you're, as a person, as a coach, Heath, you seem to be much more in tune to the journey. And what I mean by that, and why I bring that up, you are aware of that magical moment comes and goes, and you got to restart.
Yep.
And it comes and goes, and you have to restart.
Yep.
Was that a philosophy? And you have shared your business philosophy as well as your coaching philosophy without me having to ask. That was going to be a question I asked. But how conscious is it? Or is it just constant life lessons you apply?
How conscious is what?
Your philosophy, this way of you're doing things.
It's conscious for sure. It's what I've grown into. It's and developed, and that philosophy, I think what you're talking about is what I call the big picture perspective.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I refer to that a lot. The big picture perspective. There's the kids swimming and the parents that are crazy and so fixated on their swimming to where they're driving their kids or the coaches into the ground. They're fixated on a small temporary thing. And there's a bigger picture, whether it be the next race, the whole season. Like when we put a season training together, we've got meets in October, November, December, January, February, March, right?
Yeah. And then May.
And then May,
June,
but we got 2 seasons, and
Sure,
that's one
right.
of the seasons.
That's one of the seasons.
And everything from September, really August, through March is building up to trying to get the kid, the athlete, the swimmer to peak at their championship meet in February and or in March. So what I'm saying is to get too excited or too stressed out or too upset about a swim in October, I don't work that way because I'm looking at the bigger picture.
And also, too, like the story that you shared with us today, like you have gone up to the short of the Olympics.
Yes.
The pinnacle of it.
Yes.
And realizing that even that
Correct.
may not be the fulfillment.
I didn't tell you this, Jason, but neat little story to illustrate that.
Okay.
So my junior year at SEC's, which is the fastest conference in America, I won the 200 butterfly, SEC champion. At that meet, posted the fastest 200 butterfly time in all of college swimming that year, or up to that point. So then I go to NC2As 4 weeks later, college championships, and swim great. Have the best college championships I've ever had. I didn't win, but I was one of 3 people that was like top 8, top 6 in all 3 of their events. I mean, it was great. Something I'd never, it was awesome. So we get on the plane on that Sunday up in Minneapolis to fly back down to Atlanta. And mid-flight, my coach comes over to me, kicks my teammate out and sits down beside me. And he says, Heath, I know this mission is very important to you. And he says, when I recruited you, you said you were going to go on a mission, and I knew that, and I support that, and I sustain that, which is a miracle, right? He said, is there any way that you can postpone it just 2 more years, couple more years, and then go on your mission after 2000? Because we finally got you where we think you have a shot to make the Olympics. I mean, you're legit right now one of the top 5, 6, 4.
Sophomore year.
No, junior year.
Oh, wow.
200 flyers in the
So
country.
this is post your Olympic trials.
Yeah, 96 was Olympic trials, so this was really the next year, a year later.
Got it, okay.
A year later. And he said, I think that, being one of the top 3, 4, 5, 200 butterflyers in the country, which I feel like we've gotten you there, you just need some good training. We need to continue to build, but you've got a shot. And I remember without hesitation, I looked at him and I said, Jack, I said, I can't do it. I said, I leave in 4 weeks to go to Colorado. And it's the right thing for me. And I just knew, Jason, that was the right thing for me. Big picture, life picture. I had a goal to go on a mission because my brothers and my dad and everybody else did it, and I was taught that's what I needed to do. But I had a goal that I wanted to serve a mission, and by that time, all the wheels were in motion, and I wasn't worried about having to stop those wheels in motion and reversing and undoing everything that I did to get to that point. But it was just the right thing because of the big picture, life big picture perspective.
Man, that is so hard.
And it's crazy because Jack, my coach, I mean, he knows what he was talking about. He was an assistant.
Right.
He was an assistant coach for the Olympic team in 2000, 2004, 2008, and then he was the head coach in 2012, or maybe he was the head coach in 2008. I can't remember. It was either 8 or 12, and had been an assistant coach leading up. So he knew, he could see he had Olympians make the team before. So he knew what it took. But I just, and I think to this day, I keep in touch with him, and he tells me, he said, I have the most respect for you. He said, beyond swimming, you are one of the few people in my entire life, not just former swimmers, but you have your act together, you know what life's about, and it will serve you well.
Man, this is leading into my next series of questions, but Heath, I have to agree with him, man. You and I have known each other for years now, and I think one of the hardest things that most people, including myself, struggle with is perspective, the right perspective, and seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
And, call it a gift, call it a calling, whatever you want to call it, you have it. And I think my question was like, you have this ability to be a mentor or mediate, and that I would honestly say that I probably, on a level that I've never experienced with anybody else. I had coaches, bosses, whatever. And it seems to come natural. Does it?
Yeah, I feel like I was, I was blessed with a few different talents that I've been able to combine and develop to get to that end result.
Right.
Like, I feel like I'm a people-oriented person. I feel like I can relate to people. I'm very compassionate and sympathetic towards people's situations and circumstances. And as my brother tells me, I have the gift of gab. I have the ability to talk, and not in a bad way, but actually in a good way, an inspiring way. And between, swimming at the level I did on some national teams and college teams and learning to speak up and be a leader on those teams, and then honestly, Jason, going on my mission and learning how to, think about this. I go to a foreign land or a foreign state, somewhere I don't know anybody, and I've got to knock on people's freaking door and say, hey, would you like to learn about Jesus Christ today? And
It's like it's a door-to-door salesman selling vacuums.
Oh yeah, yeah. And not that I'm selling that, but
it's cold calls.
But the ability to talk to people, the ability to learn to accept rejection and learn how to deal with rejection, and all those things. Sometimes I feel like I'm on a speaking tour at church, speaking to congregation and youth groups, and I've had a lot of experience doing that. I love doing that, and I've kind of developed a flavor for it, a desire for it, a talent for it, and it fits perfectly with combined with the coaching, over the last 20 years in building and leading teams and cultures and environments, togetherness, and then dealing with, I really am over about 50 to 60 athletes. And Jason, you've been around it. You know the different circumstances they come from, the different work ethics, the different problems they have, off and on, whether it's girls, girlfriends, their boyfriends, schoolwork, anxiety,
parents,
bullying, not swimming fast and being depressed. All that stuff is legit to them, so it's legit to me, and thus comes I've developed a master's degree or a PhD in psychology.
One of the things that really impresses me, and I want to have to ask this, and it's something that I'm still learning to do. When somebody comes at you aggressively or critically, and hijacks your amygdala, and your emotions are inflamed, and we've talked extensively about how hot you can be on that. There's a moment where you just kind of close your eyes and take a deep breath and say, "All right, I've got to approach this from a different perspective."
Yeah.
You do that?
Yeah, of course.
You do that?
Of course.
You-
I mean, it's funny. You hear success stories, and they're inspiring, and they're motivating, and maybe somebody on your podcast will be motivated and learn lots and gain a perspective, and that's great. But things aren't always easy for Coach Heath.
I don't think they're ever easy for anybody.
And there are stressful moments, and you don't see those, or we don't talk about those per se, whether just being fatigued from the schedule of getting up at 4:45 in the morning and going till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock every night during the summer. Or whatever the situation might be, and trying to get stuff done and meet deadlines. And I mean, it's that's just part of life, though, right?
Yeah, man.
That's part of life.
I said on either a podcast last year or one of my vlogs, it's like I had to just come to accept that it's never going to be easy. There are easier days, but it's never easy. All right, so is swimming a superior sport? You mentioned all these other sports that you played and all that stuff, and then
in 2020, yes.
Why? Can you tell us why?
Michael Phelps.
Okay, explain.
He's taken an Olympic sport, which is an individual sport, which most of the world does not care about, and made it relevant and made himself a millionaire out of it. Obviously, I'm biased because of my swimming background, and now I'm in the business of it. But swimming is superior because it teaches you so much more. So much more. Bottom line is, what you put into it is what you get out of it. You're not dependent. You're not going to have LeBron James or Tom Brady carrying you to a Super Bowl or NBA championship ring. I mean, if you're going to get a ring, it all depends on you.
That's right.
And the many different lessons. I mean, is it the most popular? No, but it absolutely has been put on the map. I mean, think about Michael Phelps, the swimmer, being on Sports Center, the Dan Patrick Show, all those. Everything. A swimmer. That's what I grew up wanting to be and do.
Right. It's funny that I totally agree. That's one of the things I asked. I played football, college football, and, I found my way into triathlon through swimming because I was a lifeguard, open water swimming and all that. And I say it all the time that I should have been a swimmer. I definitely have that natural feel for the water. I enjoy it. It is also one of those sports that you can't just muscle your way in there. It becomes this art form, if you will, finesse. You have to manipulate the water to make it do what you want to do. But I've always said that when I started doing triathlons, when I go up to the start line, I was like, man, I'm sure glad I can swim.
That's right.
Because you got all these runners and these cyclists that just can't swim, man, and they just flop around.
It's a completely different sport, buddy.
You come out of the water, and I'm feeling fresh and recovered, and everybody's like, everybody else is basically drowning, or a lot of people are. Anyway, so. All right, so I agree with that. So, hardest part about being your own boss?
Managing time, which is what we talked about a little bit. Managing time and learning when to cut it off and cut it on, and when people are on vacation and deadlines or things need to be done, you're the one that ends up doing it.
The buck stops with you.
The buck stops with you. Yep.
That overwhelm you sometimes?
Sometimes.
Have you learned to deal with it?
Yeah, the first 8 years until you said it was just me and you. It was legit just me and you. So I was doing admin stuff all the time and getting, not to mention events that we do and getting ready for events. And but now I've grown and I've got a staff. I've got a team manager that handles so much stuff. You handle a lot of stuff for me, and I've got parents, and so I feel like it's there are probably about 4 or 5 times during the year where I feel really stressed and crunched and that pressure, as opposed to 30 times a year. But we've grown, and I feel like I've done a decent job of growing the program administratively and leadership wise with that prosperity.
Cool. So the next thing is conversations. We obviously talked extensively. You said your brother said you have the gift of gab. Do you seek out conversations, or do conversations seem to find you?
Both. I mean, they definitely seem to find me. because I think I have the reputation, whether it be at church or with family or swim team or whatever circle I'm in at the time, that I'm a guy that you can talk to. I'm a person that I feel like is respected, and people like to run things by me or want my opinion or need their help, or I think I'm easy to talk to, and that attracts people, good or bad, for good or bad, but that attracts people to me, I believe.
All right, and this is the last thing. I think everybody get a kick out of this. So hopefully I'll cut this up and put this on my thing too. But we've talked about the intricacies of swimming and business, but you and I have had a lot of conversations about cheese fries.
Oh.
So now, I guess it's like any other, like pizza or whatever. So let's talk about cheese fries. When I say cheese fries, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Outback Steakhouse.
Outback Steakhouse. All right, why Outback Steakhouse?
They're my favorite cheese fries dipped in that ranch that they've got.
Okay, so for
no doubt about it,
all right,
Jason.
but there are all kinds of different kind of fries. Describe the fries themselves. Why are that type of fry? Why does it work?
They're steak fries.
They're steak fries, right? They're
nice,
a little thicker. They're a little shorter.
thicker. They're salty. They got a good taste.
Now, and
they don't put no cheese whiz on it, Coach. I don't do cheese whiz.
They put bacon on it too, right?
Oh, yes.
Right. So no cheese. So they put real cheese on it. They shred the cheese up, put it on the fries, and they melt the cheese on the fries.
Jason, I could be on a diet, and there's probably one or two things that I can't say no to.
Cheese fries.
Outback cheese fries are one of those things.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Cheese fries, I am totally.
How many times we've been to a swim meet and we'd be like,
cheese fries. How many times
we would get a burger from somewhere else, and then we just order cheese fries.
Not eat the burger and just eat the cheese fries. And save the burger for the next time. So yeah, so cheese fries. Also, for those of you listening, we are using this as also a launching pad for Heath's web podcast that we're starting.
Yeah,
that's loosely affiliated with the Palmetto Aquatics, but more about him as a coach, a philosopher, and what he's going through in his kind of journey in life. And we'll be using similar platforms, and you're listening to right now with Kendall Projects as well as that. It's going to be Coach Heath's Corner. Life lessons and helpful anecdotes.
Yeah, that's my gift of gab. I preach to the swim team all the time, and I want to be able to share more lessons and ways of positive thinking, and I think I went over it a little bit my first episode with you a little bit. We're going to be talking mostly about life and life's journey, and a little bit about my vision and purpose for the podcast. So we'd love to have any and everybody. I would love for all of my listeners to listen to yours, and all of yours listen to mine. So you need to
cross pollinate,
figure out how to do that.
Yeah,
you're the tech man. See, we talk about natural gifts, Jason, and I've got a lot of them, but the gift of technology, Coach Heath does not have. So you're going to have to help me figure that one out.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm looking forward to, I'm hoping there were a lot of little stories we couldn't share and talk about as other swimmers. We definitely don't want to use names and stuff, but there are a lot of stories and little things about swimming, or kids that swam, or individuals that have come in Heath's life that we're going to relate to these stories and these lessons that he's talking about. So it's not only going to be helpful, it's going to be entertaining to hear these stories. And I'm looking forward to that. So, Heath, thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely. You do a fantastic job, Jason. I love you. I've got tons of respect for you. And I just encourage everybody to continue to listen to your podcast, because you do a lot of good work.
All right. See you next time, guys.